Dawn rose from her bed beside old Tithonus, bringing light for mortals and immortals both, and the gods came to their morning session. There in his place was Zeus Almighty, thunderer in the heights, and Athena made them a speech about Odysseus and his troubles, for she was concerned that he still remained in captivity. Father Zeus, and all you gods everlasting and blessed, from this time forth let no sceptred king be kind and gentle, let none have justice in his heart, let him always be harsh and act the tyrant, for none of his subjects remember that noble prince Odysseus, who ruled them like a kind father. Now he lies wretched and miserable, Calypso's prisoner in her island, and he cannot return to his native land, for he has no men and no galleys to carry him over the broad back of the sea. And now again they want to murder his beloved son, who has gone to Pylos and to Lacedaemon to find out news of his father. They are only waiting for his return. Zeus, cloud-gatherer, answered, My dear child, what in heaven do you mean by that? Was not the whole thing your own notion? Didn't you want him to come home that way and take his vengeance? As for Telemachus, you can easily manage to bring him back safe and sound and let the plotters just sail home again. Then he called to his son Hermes and said, Hermes, you are my messenger, and here is an errand for you. Go and declare to Calypso our unchangeable will that Odysseus shall return after all his troubles, but no god shall go with him, and no mortal man. He shall build a raft, and a hard voyage he shall have, until after 20 days he shall come to land on Scheria, the rich domain of our own kinsmen the Phaeacians. They shall honor him like a god in the kindness of their hearts, and they shall escort him in one of their ships to his native land. They shall give him plenty of gold and bronze and heaps of fine clothing, more indeed than he could have brought from Troy as his share of the spoils if he had come home without mishap. For this is how he is destined to return to his tall house and his native land and to see his friends once more. The king's messenger was ready, as he had been when he brought death to the watcher Argos. He put on his fine shoes, those golden and incorruptible shoes which used to carry him over moist and dry to the ends of the earth, swift as the breath of the winds. He took up the staff which lays a spell on men's eyes if he wills or wakens the sleeping. Holding this, Argiphontes flew away swift and strong. One step on Pieria, and he swooped from the upper air upon the deep. Then he skimmed the waves like a seagull which hunts fish in the dangerous inlets of the barren sea, and dives into the brine with folded wings. Such was the shape of Hermes as he rode on the rippling waves. When at last he came to that far-off island, he left the blue sea and passed over the land until he reached the great cave where Calypso lived. He found her in the cave with her beautiful hair flowing over her shoulders. A great fire blazed on the hearth, and the burning logs of cedar and juniper wafted their fragrant scent far over the island. Calypso sat within by her loom, singing in a lovely voice and shooting her golden shuttle to and fro. A thick coppice of trees grew round the cave, alder and aspen and sweet-smelling cypress. There the birds would sail to rest on their outspread wings, owls and falcons and long-tongued sea ravens who busied themselves about the waters. Over the gaping mouth of the cave trailed a luxuriant grapevine with clusters of ripe fruit, and 4 rills of clear water ran in a row close together, winding over the ground. Beyond were soft meadows thick with violets and wild celery. There was a sight to gladden the very gods. King's messenger Argiphontes stood still and gazed about him with deep content. Then he went into the cave, and Calypso knew him as soon as she saw him. For all those of the divine race know one another when they meet, even if they live a long way off. But Odysseus was not there. He was sitting in his usual place on the shore, wearing out his soul with lamentation and tears. Calypso gave him greeting. My dear Hermes, this is an honor, with your golden rod and all. What has brought you here? You do not often pay me a visit, but you are heartily welcome. Tell me what you want. I am glad to do it if I can, and if it is doable. But do come in and let me entertain my guest. With these words she led him to a seat that shone with diligent polishing, and set a table beside him with a dish of ambrosia and a cup of red nectar. The royal messenger ate, he drank, he enjoyed a hearty meal, and then he answered her question. You ask me what brings me here, as one god to another. Very well, I will tell you the whole history as you ask. Zeus sent me here. I did not want to come here. Who would want to travel all that distance over the salt water, no end to it, and no city of mortals anywhere near to provide a god with sacrifice and a handsome feast? But no god can shirk or baffle the will of Zeus Almighty. That is quite impossible. He says there's a man here, one of those who were 9 years fighting before Priam's town, and the most unlucky of them all. It took them 10 years to capture that city. Then they set out for home, but on the way they offended Athena, and she raised a bad wind and a heavy sea against them. All his good comrades were drowned, but he, as it seems, was carried here by winds and waters. There's the man, and the orders are to send him away at once, for it is not his fate to perish in this place far from his friends. It is decreed that he shall see his friends again and return to his tall house and his native land. Calypso shivered, and she spoke her mind plainly. A hard-hearted lot you are, you gods, and as jealous can be. Why are you shocked if a goddess sleeps with a man and makes no secret of it, when she happened to find one she could love as a husband? It is always the same. When blushing John chose Orion, all you gods were shocked. You live as you like yourselves, but you would not rest until Artemis let fly one of her gentle bolts and killed him to Ortyga, her holiness on that golden throne. Then Demeter had a fancy for Ison, and pleased herself, made her love bed on the furrows of the plowland. Zeus heard of it in no time and killed him dead with a fiery thunderbolt. So you gods are all shocked at me now because there's a mortal man with me. I saved the man when he was straddling across a ship's keel all by himself, after Zeus had sent another fiery thunderbolt at him and smashed the ship to pieces in the middle of the sea. All his crew were drowned, and the winds carried him here. I loved him and cherished him, and I did think I would make him immortal like myself. But since it is impossible for any god to shirk or baffle the will of Zeus Almighty, let him go to the devil over the barren sea if that is the command of his mightiness. I will not give him a passage home. I have no ships and no sailors to carry him over the broad back of the sea, but I will gladly advise him and help him to get home. Hermes answered, All right, let him go now, and don't forget the wrath of God, or he may be angry with you one fine day. So Argifontes departed, having delivered his message, and Calypso went in search for Odysseus. She found him sitting upon the shore. The tears were never dry in his eyes. Life with its sweetness was slowly trickling away. He cared for her no longer. At night he was forced to sleep by her side in the cave, although the love was all on her part, and he spent the day sitting upon the rocks or the sands, staring at the barren sea and sorrowing. Calypso came up to him and said, Poor old fellow, please don't sit here lamenting any more. Don't let yourself pine away like this. I'm going to send you off at once, and glad to do it. Come along, cut down trees, hew them into shape, make a good broad raft, and you can lay planks across it, and it shall carry you over the misty sea. I will provide you with bread, water, red wine, as much as you like. You need not starve. I'll give you plenty of clothes and send a fair wind behind you to bring you home safe and sound, if it so please the gods who rule the broad heavens, who are stronger than I am, both to will and to do. As she said this, the ever-patient man shivered, and he said plainly, I am sure there is something else in your mind, goddess, and no kind send-off for me when you tell me to cross the great gulf of the sea on a raft. That is a difficult and dangerous thing, even for well-built ships, although they sail swiftly enough when they are blessed with a good wind from heaven, and I should not care to embark on a raft without your good will, not unless you could bring yourself to swear a solemn oath that you will not work some secret mischief against me. The beautiful goddess smiled and stroked him with her hand, saying, Ah, you are a wicked man, always wide awake, or you would never have thought of such a thing. Now then, I swear by heaven above and by earth beneath, and the pouring force of Styx, that is the most awful oath of the blessed gods. I will work no secret mischief against you. No, I mean what I say. I will be as careful for you as I should be for myself in the same need. I know what is fair and right. My heart is not made of iron, and I am really sorry for you. Then she led him briskly to the great cave. They went in, together, the goddess and the man. He took the seat which Hermes had just left. She laid the table with food and drink, everything which mortal man can eat, and sat opposite while the maids brought her nectar and ambrosia. They took what they wanted, and when they had had a good meal, the beautiful Calypso spoke first. Prince Odysseus Laertiades, now is the time to show your famous cleverness. So you want to go home at once. Well, I wish you luck all the same. If you knew what troubles you will have before you get to Ithaca, you would stay where you are and keep this house with me and be immortal. However much you might want to see your wife whom you long for day in and day out. Is she prettier than me? I think not. I don't think it likely that a mortal woman would set herself up as a model of beauty against a goddess. Odysseus knew what to say to that, and he answered at once, Gracious goddess, don't be cross with me. I know all that as well as you do. My wife is nothing compared to you for beauty. I can see that for myself. She is mortal. You are immortal and can never grow old. But even so, I long for the day of my homecoming, and if some god wrecks me again on the deep, I will endure it, for I have a patient mind. I have suffered already many troubles and hardships in battle and tempest. This will be only one more. As he spoke, the sun went down, and the darkness came, and these two lay down in the corner of the lofty cave and enjoyed their love together. When dawn showed her rosy fingers through the mist, Odysseus put on tunic and cloak, and the nymph a silvery wrap, with a golden girdle under it round the hips and a veil over her head. Then she began to help Odysseus in his work. She gave him a good handy axe of bronze, double-edged, with a well-fitted handle of olive wood and an adze with a smooth shaft, and led him to the end of the island. There was a coppice of tall trees, long since dry and sapless, and easy to float, alder and aspen and pine trees high as the sky. When she had shown him the trees, Calypso went back, and he began to fell them. He worked fast and soon cut down 20 trees, then trimmed them with an axe, shaped them neatly, and made them true to the line. Then Calypso brought him a boring tool, and he bored holes and fitted the spars together, making them fast with pegs and joints. He made his craft as wide as a skillful shipwright would plan out the whole of a bluff ketch. He fixed ribs along the sides and decking planks above, and finished off with copings along the ribs. He set a mast in her and fitted a yard upon it, and he made also a steering oar to keep her straight. All round he ran bulwarks of wattle to keep the water out, and threw brushwood into the bottom. Then Calypso brought him cloth to use for a sail, and he made that too. Stays and halyards and sheets he made fast in their places, and dragged her down to the shore on rollers. In 4 days he had finished the whole, and on the 5th Calypso saw him off, after she had bathed him and clothed him in garments scented with juniper. She did not forget a skin of red wine and another large one full of water, with provisions in a bag, tasty stuff and plenty of it, and she sent with him a fair wind, friendly and soft. Odysseus was glad of that wind as he set his sail and sat by the stern oar steering like a seaman. No sleep fell on his eyes, but he watched the Pleiades and the late settling wagoner, and the bear, or the wagon, as some call it, which wheels round and round where it is, watching Orion, and alone of them all never takes a bath in the ocean. Calypso had warned him to keep the bear on his left hand as he sailed over the sea. 17 days he sailed over the sea, and on the 18th day he approached the nearest point of the Phaeacian country, which is shady with its shady uplands. The island looked like a great shield lying upon the misty deep. But the earth-shaker was now on his way back from the Ethiopians, and caught sight of him in the distance from the Samaean hills. He fell into a royal rage and shook his head as he cried out, Damn it all, the gods have changed their minds about Odysseus as soon as I was out of the way, and there he is, close to Phaeacia, where he is fated to find the end of the tribulations which afflict him. But I promise that I will yet give him a good run of bad luck.